Pace chasers are one of the more inconsistent and misunderstood running styles. They're great on sprint and mile tracks, then suddenly seem to fall off the meta for those medium and long courses. So today I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know in order to make this pace chaser that you want to run work in the Airies Cup. The first part of this video will be dedicated to all pace chasers as a whole, and the second will be for Christmas Oguri specifically because she plays fundamentally different than the rest. So without further ado, let's get into it. Stats are the first thing we have to get through. You've probably already seen this before, so I will keep it brief. Obviously, you're going to want max speed and as much power and wit as you can get. As for stamina, you want 700 at least to survive, but more is obviously better to account for potential debuffers getting rushed or anything like that. I think a better threshold to go for is 750 to 850. And if you're running a guts deck and have a ton of guts, that will equal around 200 stamina, so you could drop to like 500, 600, 700 stamina in that case. And a white stamina skill will equal about 100 stamina here too, so you can do with less stam, since I know no one really wants to run a stamina card or go hard into the power here. So the course will also be right-handed on Nakayama turf in the springtime, and is a 2,000 meter standard distance track. The conditions are firm and sunny. Now that that is all out of the way, here is the most important part of the video, and for making a good pace chaser in general, is your acceleration. Probably the biggest thing that confuses newer players as to why they aren't winning all of a sudden is Excel. And if you really don't understand what acceleration does, let me tell you. Once your Uma moves from the mid-race into the late race, they'll decide if they have enough stamina to finish the track. And if they do, they'll enter the last sprint mode. This changes their target speed to their cap, which we'll say is 1200 for this example. In the mid-race, they would have fluctuated around the 800 or so range, but now they have to speed up all the way until they reach that 1200 speed. If your Uma were to get this max speed faster than the others, you gain a lot of lengths on your opponents. Higher power stats affect your natural acceleration, but the best ways to do this is through either speed carryover or an acceleration skill. Speed carryover is essentially this: if your Uma activated a skill before the late race, their speed went from 800 to say 950. Once in the late race, they can start accelerating from that 950 mark instead of the 800 mark, essentially cutting down the time it takes for them to reach the top speed. Acceleration skills are exactly what they say. If you're below that target speed and you activate an acceleration skill, you'll just reach that top speed faster. Christmas Oguri has both carryover and excel in her unique, which is what makes her so broken for this CM. Okay, so how do you get this on a pace chaser? Well, if you want speed carryover, you're just gonna have to get lucky with the skill. There's no really good inheritor or anything that guarantee activation at the right time, so that's kind of out the window. And standard acceleration skills for pace chasers like Redshift, Shooting for Victory, they actually activate way too late on this course to do anything, so there's basically nothing you could rely on to guaranteed activate at the beginning of the late race. So the only way to actually win as a pace chaser is to gamble hard. If you stack enough of those RNG acceleration skills on your Uma, chances are that one of them will activate early enough to do something. Your first option is Head On, and the gold version Neck and Neck, which is releasing on the Daiwa Scarlet Power card very soon. The card itself is pretty solid, but not sacrifice your deck to borrow it levels of good. You could also get it from the Mayano Top Gun Speed cards event or the Special Week SR Powers events, but keep in mind that both are 50-50 chances to get that Head On. Mayano card is pretty strong, but the Special Week card is pretty terrible, so do with that what you will. I expect a lot of you will be getting it from Rival Race instead of these cards actually. Your second working excel is No Stop Me and Nimble Navigator, which are the most consistent in my opinion in tests. You get Nimble Navigator as a hint from Fine Motion or Mayano Top Gun, or in the event from the Majiro Ryan SR Power card, which is an okay card I guess. To get No Stopping Me, all you need is the Yukino Bijin Wit SSR. The card isn't very good and in fact doesn't get much stronger from 0 limit break to max. So if you have this, it would be best to throw it in your deck instead of just borrow a max limit break one. The third acceleration option I have for you is technically two, but they're basically the same in how you get them, which is Ignited Spirit Power and Guts. You will have to inherit these skills from your Legacy Sparks if you want them from a Unity parent. So basically, Ignited Power is just acceleration, Ignited Guts is speed and a bit of acceleration. So Ignited Power is better if it activates early, but useless if it activates late. Guts is a bit useful whenever it activates. It'll always give you a bit of excel and a bit of speed. And also, don't worry too much about the whole combined stat total thing. The way it works is you go from 0.8 times effectiveness to 1.2 times effectiveness depending on your team stats, but you should be pretty consistently at around a flat 1 effectiveness on Ignited Guts, even if you don't run a Guts deck on anyone. So if you can, try to get at least 3 of the skills I mentioned for more wins as a pace chaser, and I do highly recommend Nimble Navigator and No Stopping Me especially. There are a few more niche skills that I'll mention right now. These skills will sometimes be useful, but aren't really worth going out of your way for or spending too many skill points on, in my opinion, just because they aren't the most consistent. Angling and Scheming and Moving Past and Beyond are the inherited uniques of Sand Sky and Measure Dober, and they do proc perfectly on this track. The problem is that they required you to be in 1st place or 5th and 6th respectively, so that will be pretty inconsistent as a pace chaser, because of course you want to push up, but there's also frontrunners who will probably be in your way. The last option is Corner Acceleration and Corner Connoisseur, which activate on a random corner, which is horribly inconsistent. I put it around like 1 in 5 chance that it actually does anything, but you can get some work done if you're lucky. Great, now that that section is done, I hope you retain all of it, because next we're going to be talking about just the other skills, which what I want to get out of the way immediately are the golden greens, because everyone's talking about them. We have the Spring Spectacle on Sakura Chino O, we have the Firm Course Menace from Narita Top Road, and the Right-Handed Demon from Satono Diamond. Although that last one you probably won't really be using as a pace chaser because Satono Diamond is just better as a late surger here. I've seen people say not to get these skills, that are not worth it. I've seen people say to always get these skills, that the speed will just make you win more. And as with many things in this game, it really depends. There's no always right, always wrong for these sorts of things. What they actually do is raise your speed and power by 60, so they can go above the 1200 cap. And this is nothing to be scoffed at. For reference, Medium S gives you 120 speed if you're at max. So if you run Sakura Chino with both gold greens and a double circle right-handed, with that Medium S, you can reach an effective speed of 1500, which will be around 3 or 4 lengths on a standard 1200 speed Uma. And the problem here, of course, comes at the steep skill point cost. Velocity skills, especially the mid-game ones, which I'll talk about soon, are very, very important for pace chasers. So assuming you don't have a lot of extra free skill points at the end, you're sacrificing actually a lot to get this late game speed and power. Firm Course Menace is probably the most justified since it doesn't give you the speed until it's gold, while the other two just start with the speed, so if you want to save some of your skill points, you can just get the speed portions of those skills and skip out on the power. Power is good, but is it really worth the 120 or whatever skill points for the gold skill? That's really up to you. My recommendation is to just save all of these skills for last to see if you want them or not by the end, and of course use your own judgments. If you have a lot of firm conditions hints, just go for it. Would it cost you double circle medium corners or medium straights to get the Spring Spectacle? Just get those instead. So now that we're done with those, we can get into the actual speed skills. Simply put, you just want as many velocity skills as you get as a pace chaser. Your excels don't have positioning requirements, so you're free to push up as much as you can in the mid-game. This will help you get away from the late surgers and the Christmas Oguris, and even maybe overtake the frontrunners. Unless your skill activates right at the beginning and triggers that pace down mode, mid-late speed skills will be just as if not more effective than the late game speed skills. So prioritize your corners and straights, your up-tempos and killer tunes, more than your speed stars and triumphant pulses, for instance. Skills will be so important that I say prioritize race bonus and skill points over pure stats. If you can get 60% higher race bonus and run 35 or more races in your career, you'll be golden. Not much else to say about these, as it is pretty self-explanatory. Now, the last part of the video, Christmas Oguri. You want to know how to build the demon. Well, disregard everything I said in the Excel section of this video because you will have your own in the unique skill Festive Miracle. The only skill I would recommend spending my points on for the Excels would be probably Nimble Navigator, but you don't need to go out of your way and hunt for it if you don't want to. In order to proc your unique at the right time, you want a specific combination of 4 recovery skills. These will maximize your chance of hitting it. 3 of the ones you want are triple sevens, U equals MA squared, which is the inherited Agnes Tachyon unique, and Hydrate, which will come with your kit, and you'll also get 2 hints from Christmas Oguri's event. And the last skill you want will be pretty much any generic mid-game recovery. Preferred position, corner recovery, straightaway recovery, those all come to mind. You could also use Operation Cacao from Valentine Mihono Bourbon, which has the requirement of you being in 4th place or above, which isn't too hard to get, but also some people will be running heavy front lobbies in order to prevent you from getting into position to activate that and your Agnes Tachyon unique. So I do think that probably your straightaway corner recoveries are going to be a bit more consistent. And if you have none of those, you could also go ahead and pick up Radiant or Glittering Star, since they'll have no chance of messing you up if you have only 3 of those recoveries. It could be a budget 4th proc if it activates early enough. But if you do have all 4 of those mentioned recoveries, do not pick this, it'll more often than not mess you up. So just kind of stay away from this in general. And just like the other pace chasers, once you have those key skills unlocked, the name of the game is your speed skills. You want to load up on as many of these as you could get your hands on, because pushing up mid to late game and widening that gap just makes your win rate way higher. Corner and straight skills, killer tunes, up-tempo, Uma Stan, playtime's over. Anything you could think of, anything that appears in your skill list from a hint, just try to get it if it gives you speed and you can proc it. If every Oguri hits her excel, the one that will win is the one with the most speed skills, who pushes up the furthest. So just try to get as many of those as you can. That's even more important than medium S in my opinion. And as per usual, I'll put a few of my own Umas and their builds up on screen as examples. Keep in mind that they're not exactly perfect. I spent a lot more time actually building my lace chargers for this CM. I would shoot for medium S and around 9 mid-game speed skills if possible for a really good Uma. Sparks are mainly power for Oguri and Stam and power for Ranchiono, but if you have a weaker deck or have trouble early game, consider some speed sparks. And I did actually just make this Oguri on my friend's account right before making this video. Actually, it's pretty good for how new the account is, so just take this as proof that you could make solo Umas even if you don't necessarily have good decks. You just have to play well and get a bit lucky. Of course, this was kind of a lucky run. And that's going to be it. If you liked the video, consider liking or subscribing, or both. I might do a light chaser guide, or maybe not, but for now, I'll see you later.